If you were middle-aged and were considering moving to the Philippines, looking to try something new, where would you move to? Dumaguete? BGC or Makati? Cebu City? Mactan Lapu-Lapu? Baguio? CDO or Cagayan de Oro? Bohol? Iloilo City? Well, hi, I'm Eric, and welcome to my Island Expats channel. Today we're going to do something totally different, and I need your help, and here's why. I'm planning a trip to the Philippines this fall in just a couple short months. I want to explore areas that would be worth for me personally to move from the US to the Philippines. And I can't be the only one in the US considering this. So I thought it might be interesting to do this all together. But I'm not totally sure just yet which location would work best for me. And I need your help to figure it out. So this is where you come in. I'm calling this my Expat Challenge. And I'm asking for your help to determine where I should move into the Philippines at some point here in the near future, and why I should choose that location. My plan here is to take you along with me as we figure this out together. You'll help me with the planning of this trip, and then I'll take you along with me to the Philippines and go check out the various places, and I'll record video everywhere I go based upon the feedback you gave me from the comments as to where to go. I want to investigate where I should move to, as my plan for the future is to split my time between the US and the Philippines. So my Expat Challenge is for our viewers to make suggestions and guide me to the right place so that I can move to the Philippines with confidence and be sure I don't miss anything in the process. Kind of like the collective mind idea. The actual itinerary for my trip will be determined by the accumulated viewer feedback in the comments. I will go to where you guys think I should go. And again, that's why I'm calling this my Expat Challenge, as you are going to help me pick the right location. So here's the plan. It's just 4 simple steps. Step 1. You're going to guide me to what areas I should check out for moving there in the near future, and why I should consider those locations in the comment section of this part 1 video. There'll be several parts to this. Step 2 will be, once I receive your feedback in the comments for about 2 to 3 weeks, give time people to respond, then I'll make a follow-up video, which we'll call part 2, with your recommendations. That way everyone can see how it came out before I go to the Philippines. Then step 3, right before it's time to go to the Philippines, which should be either September or October, I will do a part 3 in this series to confirm my itinerary based upon your feedback, so everyone knows where it turned out. I'll also list my pre-trip checklist since it's an international destination. There's some work I got to do to get prepared to go. That way you can see the things that I did to prepare for this several-week trip into the Philippines. I hope that list will be of benefit for you as to when you come to the Philippines, then you have this checklist also. All right. Then, once I'm there in the Philippines, I'll shoot the different locations that were recommended by the viewers, and then I'll do a follow-up video, which will be part 4 from the trip, so you can see how it all turned out. We can discuss the pros and cons after seeing it in person, and whether I think that it's the best location for me to move to based upon my actual experience versus what you've told me in the comments to go and check out. All right, let me give you some background for this personal challenge of mine, because it's real. This isn't made up. I'm actually considering moving to the Philippines and going back and forth to the US, spending time in both places, in part because my parents are elderly and they need some help. So I can't go there full time, but I can split my time. All right, so here's my situation. I'm a soon-to-be single, middle-aged guy from California, and I live an active lifestyle here along the coast. All right, to kind of help along here, here's my top 10 priorities when I'm looking for a place to live in the Philippines. And I'm sure there are other considerations, but at the moment, this is what I can think of. Here's my list. If you think of something else I'm missing, which I'm sure I am, please let me know in the comments, and then I'll make sure that I take a look at that. Okay. Number one, I'm looking for a condo or an apartment to rent with a pool, just to kind of confirm the area, right? I'm not going to go over there and buy a condo in an area that I haven't tested out first. Number two, I need reliable and fast internet service, and of course cell service for my cell phone, in order to post videos. So that is a must. So the area that we pick, it needs to have reliable internet service. Now that may not seem like a big deal in the US, but in the Philippines, that can be an issue. Along with the third thing I need, which is reliable power and water. So in case you're taking things for granted in the US, because we almost never have power outages unless there's a storm, in certain areas of the Philippines, it's quite common. And this is one of the things you have to worry about depending upon which city you pick. All right. The next thing that I'm looking for is I really would prefer to have some Western food options in both restaurants and maybe a deli or something like that, just to help with the transition. The next point is probably a bigger issue for me for some reason than most of you, but I need clean air, as I didn't realize it, but I'm sensitive to the air pollution. The last time I was in Manila, I was there for a few days and I didn't wear a mask or anything, and I actually got like a chest cold. So the pollution there doesn't work for me, and that probably, in my case, rules out the Manila general area. The next thing I'm looking for is an access to either a small to medium-sized city for just convenience. You know, banking, a market, a wet market, all those different things. But I want access and not too much traffic. There are certain parts of the Philippines and the big cities especially, like the Manila area, the traffic's just insane. So that's not something that I'm looking for, but I would like access. It just has to be close by to a small or medium-sized city. All right? And just so you know, I prefer to get around by a scooter. You can call it like a little motorcycle, whatever, but I've come up with something I'm calling the scooterability level. And that is where it's the best way for me to travel is on a scooter, and I want to know in the locations you choose, what is the scooterability level? Can I scooter around? For example, on Siargao Island in particular, I was able to rent a scooter for a week and cruise the whole island. And to me, that was just a great time. All right, so that is something that I need in order to access the city. And realistically, unless there's a really good choice and a compelling reason, I'm probably going to live outside the city. The next thing I'm looking for on my list is access to the ocean and nature. So I live a pretty active lifestyle near the coast here in California. I'm in Southern California, and I prefer to be by the ocean. And I like to spend time on it, in it, whatever. I like to go boating and snorkeling, sailing, paddling, surfing, those type of things. That's kind of my gig, so I want to make sure that there's something like that close by. All right. The next thing I'm looking for on my list in the Philippines is someplace that's safe and that has a sense of community with friendly neighbors and as quiet as possible, right? I prefer not to worry about the dogs in the street. And if you've been over there in the province, you know what I'm talking about. And the rooster's going off. Not only do they go off at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes they go off in the middle of the day. And you can tell because sometimes vloggers are making a video and there goes the rooster. So this may be a difficult ask because my preference isn't to be directly in the city unless someone can convince me otherwise. That would be one way out for sure. So it may not be a realistic ask, but the last time I was in the Dumaguete area and I rented a scooter, I was fine around town in downtown Dumaguete. But when I went back out to Davao where I stayed, I was going in and out of dogs like there was no tomorrow. And I don't want to get bit, and most of them are not vaccinated, so it is an issue. Okay, next thing. This isn't a have to, this is just more of a preference for me. But if I have access to an expat community, possibly even with other YouTubers, then it's kind of like I can find my tribe. That would be ideal. So not an absolute have to, but that would be my preference to kind of find some other like-minded people that, I could kind of partner up with on the channel, and then also hopefully develop into some, legitimate friendships. The last thing that I'm looking for is just either reasonable, or if there's an option for a little cooler weather than some of the places that get so hot, that would be ideal. And then the other thing would be, hopefully it's limited hurricane and flooding exposure. There are certain cities that are in direct line of hurricanes, right? They face the open ocean. And then sometimes in the rainy season, they really have problems with flooding, especially in the mountainous areas. So if we can find it, that's kind of my number 10 on the list here, is a reasonable weather or cooler weather, so it's not quite so hot, right? I'm kind of used to the mid-70s along the coast here and 50% humidity most of the time here in Southern California. There are certainly trade-offs when living in different areas in the Philippines, and I realize that. So I may not get everything on my list, but I'm giving us a starting point as to what I'm looking for. Okay, so my question to you is, where would be your first choice for me to live, and why? I'm sure there are lots of different places worth checking out, so let me know in the comments where you think, based upon my list, I should consider. Now, to help us along here, I've researched 9 areas that I've pretty much been to, not all of them, but most of them, to help us get started. And then I'm listing their pros and cons so that we can kind of see out of the possibilities and kind of get a feel for what I'm looking for. So if you happen to be watching this video and you're just checking out the Philippines and haven't been there yet, and you feel like, well, how can I help? Well, then just comment on these 9 areas, because I'm going to give you the pros and cons of each. And in the video, I'm going to show you some footage of each. So then you can check out for yourself what these 9 areas look like, which would be potential places for me to live. And then we'll see what's the best fit for me after we review the pros and cons, right? As these are some areas that I would consider based upon the travels I've had the last 10 years in the Philippines. Okay, the first place is Tagaytay. This is a couple hours outside of Manila. So you would fly into the main airport of Manila, and then it's about a 2 to 3 hour drive from the airport up into the mountain area outside of Manila. There's lots of traffic. But the pros would be this. You can fly directly to Manila, like if you're going in and out of the States, and in 2 or 3 hours, you would be up in cooler weather because it's higher elevation. There's lots of trees, lots of landscape and nature. There's a place called the Taal Lake, and it actually has a volcano there. I've actually gone on an excursion where, what did I do? I hiked up part of the way. Let's see, you start off at the base of the lake when you come down from Tagaytay. You go on one of their, I don't know what to call them. I call them Filipino boats, but they're like a wooden boat. They take you across the lake. Once you get to the other lake, on the other side of the lake, then you're at the volcano. And then you can either hike up to near the base of the volcano, or you can ride a donkey for a small fee, which I think is what I did. I rode the donkey, and then it took me up to the highest point where I could look back down into the volcano. I guess it took me to the top. I just remember there was a green lake, and there was a lot of steam coming up, and really green. So it was kind of interesting in the middle of the volcano. I've heard since that time it's become a little bit active, so I don't know that that's a positive. But anyway, it is very beautiful in that area, and it's just a boat right across from Tagaytay. There's a lot of scenic views in the Tagaytay area. I remember there's monkeys. I was staying at this hotel, and these 2 monkeys were out in the balcony. That was pretty cool. The area is known for its restaurants, and of course its nature, hiking, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, here's the cons to the Tagaytay area. Because it's cooler weather and it's outside Manila, it's pretty much the rich Filipinos' playground. There's 2 places like that in the Philippines that I found so far. I'm sure there's more, but Baguio's the other one of the wealthiest cities, and then Tagaytay. So the real estate's more expensive. So that's just would be a negative to that. So it's going to cost a little bit more to be in that area. Also, the traffic from Manila can be pretty heavy. I know it took me a solid 3 hours in stop and go traffic to get out there. I mentioned the volcano. It can be okay, but if it's active, that might not be okay. A lot of traffic on the weekends, and it can get kind of crowded in peak season. The one thing I remember is that there's very limited transportation options. It was even hard to kind of find a trike So that's kind of like the 3-seater thing they do, where they take the motorcycle and they put the cage on it, and you either get an extra 1 or 2 people. Anyway, much cooler up there because of the elevation. Literally, if it was 85 degrees in Manila, it was 75 up there. So it's a pretty big difference. Okay, the next area I would consider would be the Dumaguete area. I was there last October. I'm going to include in the Dumaguete area both Downwind and Valencia. Downwind's about 25 minutes to the south, away from the city, down the coast, and kind of wraps around, so I'm not quite sure. But anyway, it's away from the city, and it's a great place to go snorkeling, and then out to Apple Island to see the sea turtles and do diving. And the other area is Valencia, which is another mountainous area. It's only 10 to 15 minutes outside Dumaguete, but it's a little bit cooler up there. So that's another reason why I would consider that, and it's a little more spread out. It's very much kind of like the province, but not that far from the city. So here's the pros to that area. Dumaguete is a very small, accessible city. You can have easy access by scooter. So very high level of scooterability. And there's really not that much traffic, which can be a problem in a lot of the city areas in the Philippines. There's a ton of nature, including mountains, which I kind of describe as, in fact, there's a video on my channel about Dumaguete, Downwind, and Valencia. You should check that out, because I actually shoot up in the mountains where I've gone where it looks kind of like the Sierras has hit the tropical rainforest, and there's all of these waterfalls and pools and really cool spots. So you can check that out, but a lot of nature and water and mountainous areas, and not that far out of town. The positive to Dumaguete, and where a lot of expats go there, probably more than any other area in the Philippines. In fact, the last time I heard, I don't know what the actual number is, but someone said there's about 5,000 expats in that greater area. And because of that, there's a lot of Western food options, and both the restaurants there, and then I remember there was like an Italian deli called Lorenzo's that was really good. So that's an advantage for that, and it's an expat community, and a lot of the vloggers are from that area. Old Dog Paul, Gio and Maya, there's a whole list of them. They're all from that area. Filipina Pea, she's in that area. Okay, another positive to that area is there's great ocean access. So that's important to me, and it's easy to get to. It's only it's a half an hour flight or so from Cebu, where you can take a ferry. So that's why so many expats tend to go to Dumaguete, and what they generally say is it's a great launching place to transition from another Western country. It's just easier to do that because of all of these things that I'm mentioning. All right. The cons to it would be, once you're outside of downtown Dumaguete, is the dogs and the roosters. It is a little bit more province-like, which I like things spread out. I don't like a bunch of traffic and buildings and all that. But boy, you got to drive in between the dogs and not in them. They get out of the way, but they're everywhere. And then the rooster's going off. The other thing to know, and it's not such a big deal on my list, but a lot of expats will say this is not the place to go if you're single, if you're trying to meet a Filipina, because the Filipinas are pretty much taken by the expats. Gio has a video where he says, if you go to Dumaguete to live, which is fine, just make sure you import your Filipina, which I thought was pretty funny, actually. He says import. All right. The next area that I would consider, and this is like more city, so I want to probably check this out if you guys say that I should, and that is in the Cebu City area in the what they call IT Park, and it's literally combination of what they call BPOs, which is business process outsourcing, the call centers, and then IT jobs. But there is an area there that it's pretty nice, and it's all kind of contained. So there's restaurants, there's malls, there's green area. There's just a lot of access to a lot of things. The pros to Cebu City and the IT Park area is that there's a lot of educated BPO people that are working jobs who have strong English skills. So you're very likely to meet people with very strong English skills. It makes the transition a little bit easier. There's great access to restaurants, night markets, and nightlife. So if that's something you're looking for, that's why a lot of expats go there. It's an area that's pretty easy for transition because they do have great restaurants and shopping and all of those things. And then it's a bit of a drive, but you can drive to beaches and to nature. So there's a lot of that on Cebu. In fact, if you go 3 hours south of Cebu City, you can go swim with the whale sharks. That's the Oslab area. And I might even check that out while I'm there. We'll see, because I've never done that. All right, here's the cons to it. It's going to take you an hour in a cab ride to get from the airport in Cebu to the IT park in Cebu City because of the traffic. Not so much the distance, but the traffic is bad. And it's the second largest city in the Philippines from a population standpoint. And because of that, it does have air pollution. So that is something I'm going to have to look up to see how bad the air pollution is, to see if I can live in that type of environment. Again, I didn't know until I started traveling to Asia, and all of a sudden I started to get like a chest infection from the pollution, and now I wear a mask outside and I don't get sick. The other thing to do is wear the mask on the airplane. That's the number one thing to keep you healthy, both back and forth. The doctor told me on that one. And again, the other con is just it's city life. It's not directly near the ocean or nature, but again, you can drive to it. All right, let's move on to the next possible location, and that's the island of Bohol. Now, I haven't been to Bohol yet, so I don't really know what area. I know Panglao is where the resorts are. I've heard that people are very friendly there. I hear that the pros that they have absolutely gorgeous beaches, a lot of resorts, a lot of access to nature. I know Rike from Life Across the Sea, he lives there now, and I think he likes it. It is known to have friendly people. It's a slower pace of life. As long as you're outside of the resort areas, then the cost of living is supposed to be somewhat reasonable. And it definitely has good air quality. And it does hit the scooter life, scooterability level. Easy to get on the scooter. I just want to hop on and off. I want an easy life here. Don't want to be stuck in traffic. So from what I understand, I guess I'll find out, but from what I understand, those are the pros to Bohol. Now here's some of the cons. The healthcare there may not be as advanced as some other areas. And Rike from Life Beyond the Sea, he actually had an appendectomy. His appendix burst, which is very scary. That's a whole other thing in another video. If you've checked out our last version of Expat News, I covered that. He went 9 days putting up with the pain. The guy's tough. But anyway, finally got on his motorcycle, rode himself over to some place called Ace Medical, and then the doctor said, "Oh yeah, you had a ruptured appendix." That can be fatal. I mean, Rike didn't get into it into his video about it, but that can be fatal. He's lucky it worked out. Anyway, healthcare could be an issue. So we say healthcare, there's two elements, like regular doctor care, urgent care, and then hospitalization, right? So may not be the strongest on Bohol, but again, haven't been there yet, not 100% sure. I have heard that the internet can be an issue, so that's going to need some further kind of assessment. I've heard that the transportation options are limited, so you definitely need your own transportation. And also the general infrastructure, as far as the community goes, roads and things like that, can be somewhat limited. It's not as developed as some of the other areas. But I hear it's an incredibly beautiful place with friendly people. All right, the next one is Davao. Now, Davao is actually the third largest city in the Philippines behind the Manila area, Cebu City, and then now Davao. And Davao's pretty spread out. So I think it's going to depend where you go in Davao. And that's a city I really want to go and explore. And here's some of the reasons why. For a big city, it has the lowest crime rate in the country. It's known as the safest city in the Philippines. It has very friendly people. They have strict law enforcement. And it's a very clean city. It also has a lot of cultural diversity. It's kind of a melting pot of different cultures and traditions. In fact, the people there, I've noticed, have got a little bit more Spanish in them often. And so you get a little bit more of that morena, kind of darker skin, but black hair. I mean, most of black hair, I guess, but it's darker features than the morena, so like a darker skin set, not fair skin. So anyway, they have some very beautiful people. It's known that on Mindanao, whatever mix it is of the traditional native people with the Spanish created some very beautiful people there. So there's a lot of cultural diversity. And that's even from a faith standpoint. That is the one area, the province of Mindanao, that in southern Mindanao is an area you have to be careful as an expat that's been warned by the U.S. State Department not to go there. And that's anywhere near the Sulu Sea area. The primary city people talk about is Zamboanga. Another one would be Marwi, and that's just more the Muslim population. And so they tend to be a little bit more like separatists, that they try to, literally some of them battle with the Philippine government. It goes on. Some crazy stuff has happened. So you want to stay in northern Mindanao if you're going to do that, which would either be Davao del Sur, which is north of that, or to the west in the north, and that would be Cagayan de Oro. Once you start going to southwest, now you're heading towards the Sulu Sea area, and it changes dramatically in the culture. Another thing that's known, this is just a factoid, is there's a stinky fruit there in Davao called durian. It's supposed to be good, but I guess it really smells. So Davao is known as one of the cleanest cities on the Philippines. The other one is Iloilo. We're going to talk about that too. And Iloilo kind of went from one of the dirtiest cities to one of the cleanest cities. So, there was a focus by the mayor and the government there to fix that, and they did that. Another thing that's nice about the greater Davao area, depending where you go, there is access to both beaches and mountains, which is more on the northern East Coast. That's where Becoming Filipino, he lives with his beach house. So there is some very beautiful beaches and not as much foreigners there. So it's affordable. This area in Davao has very reputable health care, both from a doctor's standpoint, urgent care and hospitals, and it's known for its schools and universities. All right, the cons to Davao would be, and this is kind of everywhere, the internet can really vary by day and by area. So its reliability may not be that good. And that would be a problem for me, but I'd have to try to figure out what the options are to solve it. If you know how to solve that problem while you're in the Philippines, I don't know if Starlink would work or something like that, but I'm open to options. Now, if you're in Davao, the city itself, of course, traffic's going to be an issue. And although the air is better than most cities, it's cleaner than most cities, but if you're in the downtown area, I'm sure there's still air pollution, and that could be a problem for me. So those are kind of the cons. But it does give you access to a very large mountainous area and coastal area, and there's a lot of things to do. Okay, the next city I want to consider is more about, what is Baguio? Probably 4 or 5 hours north of Manila. So it's what we call northern Luzon, basically a mountain community. And so it's cooler weather up there. And the nice thing about it is that if you come down from there and kind of go the other direction towards the coast, there's a surfing beach called La Union that's only 90 minutes away. So that's a real advantage, at least for me. I could get to the beach if I lived up there. The area is known to be kind of a playground for the wealthy Filipinos, and because of that, there's really good restaurants up there. It also has cooler temperatures because of the elevation, and you basically really don't need air conditioning in the Baguio area, which is quite interesting because you're in the Philippines. And then also a few hours away from Baguio City itself is a really nice place called Camiguin Island. It's got the white sand beaches, you do the snorkeling, it's supposed to be a really beautiful place. Baguio is also known as the City of Pines, so there's quite a bit of trees up there, a lot of scenic views, really pretty place. So that's why people like it. Now it's also got a little bit of density and city to it, so the cons would be there is traffic congestion, especially in peak times of the year, weekends, holidays, and things like that. Real estate's going to be more expensive up there. And even though it's got good overall infrastructure, I understand the internet can still be inconsistent. So that's got to be checked out. The area is known to be prone to landslides and earthquakes. So when it becomes the rainy season, if there's big storms, that could be a problem. But other than that, it is kind of the wealthy playground outside of the Manila area for the successful Filipinos. Another place I would consider, maybe, I've been there twice. I loved it. I'm just not sure if I'd live there all the time. But if I was there part-time, I probably would do it, and that would be Siargao Island. Now, Siargao Island has got great surfing. That's what it's known for. It's the surfing capital of the Philippines. It's got a famous break called Cloud 9. I've surfed it. I got punished by it. The reef and everything, yeah, it really holds you down on big waves. I found that out the hard way. But anyway, thought I knew what I was doing and paid for it. Anyway, but it does have some nice beaches over there, and it's just an easily accessible area. It's less developed. When you're in the main area that the tourists go to is General Luna, and then from there to Cloud 9, the surf break is about a mile or two, and that's where all the resorts are. So it's a resort-like area, but because of that, it doesn't have any mall. The whole island doesn't have a mall. The only city is really in Dapa, and it would be, probably smaller than Dumaguete. It's just really the port there in Dapa where you come in on the ferry if that's how you decide to get there. The positive to the island, it's less population. I drove the scooter all the way around it. The scooterability there is very high. That's a fun thing to do. One of my favorite because it cools you off, So there's less population. It's very province-like, where it's like palm trees and open land, and so really pretty spot. But it took me about 4 hours to circle the whole island. I mean, I was opening it up on the backside when there wasn't really a lot of people and open areas. I mean, I had that thing floored. I was flying, but it took me about 4 hours to go all the way around the island. So neat place, very relaxed lifestyle, great air quality, nice vibe. A lot of Europeans, usually more Europeans and Australians and sometimes New Zealanders than Americans, is what I've noticed. And yeah, there's a great story. This goes back, I'm not sure how long ago, I want to say 20 years ago, but some Australians used to come and surf that Cloud 9 break. And when they kind of found it, so surfers are always looking for the ultimate wave and all this stuff. So they'd go over there and surf, and the locals didn't surf. And then when they left, the Australians would leave their boards for the locals, and locals started learning to surf. And now today, most of the guys surfing are locals, along with Europeans and a few Americans. So the guys are really into it now. It's kind of a neat area. Again, the cons to Siargao Island is there's no real city or mall, right? Lots of restaurants because it's more of a resort area. Very limited healthcare options. And I'm sure there's a hospital somewhere, maybe in Dapa, which is a couple hours away, but nothing close. And there's virtually no public transportation. You basically just have to find a trike or run a scooter. And I found when I was there, again, I was there twice, the internet was hard to get, and the power came and went. And the resort I stayed at had a backup generator, so we were okay, but it was pretty common to have those brownouts. Now, the other thing is they're open to the eastern part. I think it's the Philippine Sea, but whatever the ocean is to the east of them is wide open with no protection from typhoons. And 2 years ago, they got drilled. So some of the people that live there have concrete homes, and that protects them except for the windows they can blow out. But that did get a direct hit 2 years ago. There are some good videos out there. If you look at a channel called 8 Miles From Home, they actually documented before, during, and after the typhoon that hit 2 years ago. The next place that I would consider would be northern Mindanao. Now, a little bit different from Davao. It's kind of similar area, but you're just going to the north, which we call Siargao. And that's actually one of the wealthiest cities on the Philippines. I went to an area there where there were beautiful homes, golf courses, country clubs, new construction on home building, tracts of homes. Looked like you're in the U.S., like some new development. So they have that. There's always a mix with the poor and all of that, economically challenged, but there's some very nice areas in Cagayan de Oro. And I think that's where the Fly Me to the Philippines folks are based at. So that's where they've landed. The pros to the area is that there's a lot of outdoor activities. There's a lot of mountainous type areas, so you can do whitewater rafting down the rivers, hiking, a lot of nature. And if you go to the downtown area of Cagayan de Oro, just past it is where I stayed. It's called Uptown. And the Uptown area's got really good restaurants right across the street from the S&M Mall. And so, yeah, it's funny. In that S&M Mall, remember, there was a big Ace Hardware store. That made me kind of laugh. But anyway, walking distance. So if you go to Cagayan de Oro, stay in the Uptown area, or ask Fly Me to the Philippines for a recommendation because they live there. But they also are known to have good schools and universities in the area, and they're very focused on improving their infrastructure. So the roads and transportation systems have been improving in more the Cagayan de Oro and city type areas. Again, very good healthcare and hospitals, and a real diversity of landscape. Now, the negatives would be that internet can vary on reliability depending where you are, so you have to deal with that. Traffic can be an issue, and if you're in the city area, like downtown Cagayan World, it's not as bad as some other cities, but depending where you are, air pollution can be a problem. Jeepneys are the things that really just smoke up the place. You know, these things look like they're left over from World War II. I think they were, and then they kind of dress them all up. There's a lot of areas they're trying to get rid of the Jeepneys now, and then update them to a cleaner option because they really do pollute. The main thing, and I mentioned it before, you want to stay clear of the southwestern Mindanao area because according to the U.S. State Department, it is not safe for Americans. And that is just that area that gets down towards Zamboanga, Marwi City, and anywhere near the Sulu Sea, which I believe goes down towards like Indonesia area, and it's just all Muslim. But there is an element there where they contest against the government. Literally, the Philippine army fights with them sometimes. So you want to stay clear of that area. There are expats that go down there and check it out. I understand that the people are beautiful, but you don't want to be kidnapped, and that has happened in that area. So don't want someone holding you for a ransom. All right. The last city I want to consider, which has really come up in the last few years, is Iloilo. So Iloilo City basically went from one of the dirtiest cities to one of the cleanest cities by a real focus program, I think, by the mayor. And it's really known for its colleges and universities. It's got a very traditional conservative culture there, which is not a problem for me. I kind of like that. It's more traditional, but just kind of know that. And then they have a lot of green spaces. It's really, they're known for being clean and green. So they're very purposeful about having green spaces, and they're known for their cleanliness in that city. There's a esplanade area they call the Iloilo River Esplanade, and it's great for outdoor activities, riding a bike, going for a walk, running, all those type of things, right up and down the river. And then from what I understand, the climate can be a little bit milder there than other parts of the Philippines, so that's a real positive. It's got good health care and good hospitals. It's got access to restaurants and malls, and it's got some infrastructure. They've really worked on their public transportation options. So those are the positives to it. And like I said, kind of overall, it's a more traditional Filipino family place, right? All right, the cons would be that still internet can be inconsistent depending upon where you are. And then they do generally speak English as a second language, especially as and the younger people taught in school. But in this area, there is a pretty predominant local dialect that not everyone there speaks English. I think it's called Ilonggo. I think that's how you say it. It's like Ilonggo, something like that. But that's the local language. There's two. Anyway, there are people that just speak that don't speak English, and so you just have to be aware from that. They can be hit by a typhoon. They're kind of on the edge of the island there, so along the coast, and they are susceptible to flooding. And because it is a little bit more of a conservative society, the nightlife is a little bit limited compared to other cities. Not a huge problem for me, but just want to point that out. Okay? All right. So those are the areas that I am considering so far, right? Before I'm going there, before you guys direct me where I should go. So that gets us started. So if you aren't that familiar with the Philippines, I just gave you a lot of background. You can look at my list of 10 things there. I'll post that in the video as like a list and in the description, what I'm looking for, and then these 9 areas, and you can kind of compare the two and say, what's a good fit for me? There's trade-offs, right? But I'm sure there's all kinds of other places to visit in the Philippines that would fit for me. I'm very interested in Bohol, but I don't know the area. So if you do, you've been there, you think there's a place I should check out, can you let me know in the comments? Or anywhere else in the Philippines. If Northern Luzon is an option, then I'd like to hear about that. I hear Bicol and Southern Luzon, another hour plane ride to the south from Manila. It's got some beautiful beaches and less infrastructure. It's a little bit more province-like, but a very pretty place. So I don't know. If there's someplace else in there, I haven't been. I want to know, and I'd like to check it out. So, and then in the areas that I'm mentioning, if you can help me kind of clarify in these target areas, these 9 that I listed, if you notice that, a particular area that I should check out, a condo complex, apartment complex, a part of town, they say in Dumaguete to stay in the north part of town. It's closer to the restaurants and the better area where the expats are. So if you know something like that for the 9 locations I've listed, can you let me know the contents? Because in the comments, it would really be helpful for me. On the trip, I'm going to check out the most popular recommended areas that you guys put in the comments. And then when I'm there, I'm going to shoot it all on video. And then you'll be able to see what it's actually like, because when I come back, I'm going to report my findings. And that will be the part 4 part of the video. So there's going to be 4 parts here that we're going to do. And this way, I can kind of confirm the pros and cons to see, after looking at it in person, is this the place that I should move to? It'll be interesting to see how aligned it is with kind of like the thinking of the crowd, right? Versus what I've kind of listed so far and other places to consider. All right, anyway, be sure to like and subscribe so others can read your comments, as it should be a really interesting conversation and we want to be able to follow everybody. And then if you want to be notified on the next video that comes out, part 2, 3, and 4 in this series, or future expat news, which we just launched about a week ago, and then other island expat videos that we do about expat bloggers in the Philippines, then hit the notifications button, because if you hit that, it'll notify you. And then the next version is out. So the next part in this series, or the next expat news, or the next video I do on vloggers in the Philippines. So that's what the notifications button does. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. And, thanks for helping me clarify this expat challenge. Again, the plan is I'm going to report back to the viewers the recommendations of where I'm going to go in part 2 of this video series. So once I get your feedback, I need about 2 or 3 weeks for you to all comment, and I can kind of accumulate that information. Then I'll make part 2 and say, okay, based upon your comments, and I'll do 2 parts of it. I'll say on the 9 areas I listed, this is what the comments were, who thought it was the fit, and then other areas that I should consider that others have not. So make sure, even if someone says, go to this area, confirm that. We're looking for numbers here, right? So we want to see 5, 10 people say, oh yeah, you should go to La Union, or you should go to BGC, or whatever that is. That's going to help me to determine where I'm going to go, all right? Feel free to check out my travel videos if you'd like. I have it on another channel called Life Across the Sea. So when I'm out traveling, I'll often make a video and try to edit it up a little bit, put music to it, and have some fun with it. So check that out. And thanks for watching. And then if you want to see more from this channel, Island Expats, then at the end of this video, there's some suggested videos that others are saying that they're worth watching. Others mean the subscribers. All right. Thanks for your help. Look forward to this challenge. I hope it works out, because you're going to be telling me where to go in the Philippines. Thanks.